Christmas dinner smelled like cinnamon and trouble. I'm Dan Carter, 66, retired structural engineer. I built bridges for a living. Tonight my son tried to burn one. Jason stood with a glass and a grin that didn't touch his eyes. "Everyone, quick announcement," he said, tapping the rim. "Dad, we've talked. For your own good. You're no longer part of this household." Forks froze. Brooke, my daughter-in-law, Instagram royalty and part-time narcissist, squeezed Jason's arm like she'd just crowned a prom king. I didn't stand. I didn't plead. I watched the candlelight wobble on the oak table. I refinished the summer. Jason learned to ride a bike. My chest was steady. My hands too. "Say that again," I said, calm. Brooke tilted her chin. "You're not well, Dan. This house is a lot. We're stepping in. It's time." That's gaslighting in a cashmere sweater. Translation: sign the deed. Fund our remodel. Hand over your life. I put my phone face down, the red light still blinking from the last voice memo I'd recorded in the hall. Brooke didn't notice. Jason never notices. He leaned on the back of my chair. "Look, Dad, don't make this messy. You've got money sitting there doing nothing. We can modernize the place, refinance, move things around. You'll thank us." I stared at the scratch in the table where 10-year-old Jason carved J+ ball with a butter knife. The kid who believed in me. The man who believes in credit limits. "Boundaries," I said quietly. "That's tonight's word." Brooke's smile thinned. "Don't be dramatic. We're helping. We even talked to a lawyer about guardianship." "Finish that word," I said. "And we're done pretending this is about love." Silence. A cousin coughed. Someone's kid whispered, "What's guardian?" and got shushed. Jason waved at the plates like a game show host. "We voted, Dad. Family agrees." There it was. Entitlement dressed as democracy. My phone buzzed. Under the table I swiped. "Linda, my sister-in-law. Jason says you're confused lately. Call me." Mike, retired cop. My best friend. "You good?" "I'm parked down the block. Civil standby if they get cute." Cute. That made me smile. Brooke slid a glossy contractor's estimate across to me like a menu. "See? New floors. Open concept. Smart fridge. It's $120K. But we can put the initial draw on your account and—" "My account," I repeated. "The one I earned on scaffolds and storm sites." "Exactly," Jason said, relief flooding his voice. "You get it." "I do," I said. "That's the problem." "That's the problem." He exhaled, relieved. "So you'll sign?" I stood. The chair's legs barked against the hardwood. Across the table, the red folder sat beside my plate. Neat, precise, like a detonator that only goes off when you read. Brooke clocked it. "What's that?" "All is knighting." It called red. "A boundary," I said. Jason laughed. "Dad, come on." I looked him in the eye. "You called Aunt Linda. You told the family I'm unstable. You changed the front door lock yesterday while I was at the grocery store. And you texted your cousin. Once the will is fixed, we're golden." I paused. "Screenshots travel, Jason." His color drained. Brooke blinked too slowly. From the head of the table, my cousin Tom cleared his throat. "Screenshots?" "Written evidence," I said, and tapped the folder without opening it. "That's the difference between a story and a case." Brooke folded her arms. "You wouldn't dare make this legal." "I already did," I said. "No heat. No rush. Just engineering. Load, span, failure point." Jason tried for sympathy. "Dad, don't do this. We're your family." "Family is not an ATM," I said. "And I'm not your enabler anymore." He slammed his glass down. Red wine jumped. "You're so damn selfish." There it was, the line abusive people throw when you stop bleeding for them. I picked up my phone and read aloud, gently. "Email from Brooke. Subject: Dad's house plan. If we push a physician's letter, the bank will trust our signatures. He won't fight. He hates conflict." Guests shifted. Someone muttered, "What?" Brooke reached for her clutch. "Before you dig deeper," I said, 2 things. 1. Under Ohio law, recording a conversation where I'm present is fair game. I let that sink in. 2. This is no longer a dinner argument. It's a paper trail. Jason sneered. "What? You locked our bank accounts?" I didn't answer him. I looked at the room. "You're going to hear words tonight, toxic, Narcissist, guardianship, will, trust. You'll hear crying. You'll hear righteous speeches. I won't compete with noise. I slid the red folder across the table to Jason. He didn't touch it, like it might bite. Brooke scoffed. This is theater. Maybe, I said. But in theater, props matter. I turned to leave. Jason's voice cracked behind me. What's in it? No, there was not that. I paused under the doorway that still smells faintly of pine cleaner and winter air. I didn't turn around. Everything you said when you thought I wasn't listening, I said. And everything I signed when I finally was. I felt the room lean forward. Let me translate, I added, for the back row. The will updated, the house protected, your access audited, and these, I tapped the folder once more, soft as a gavel, are not threats. They're boundaries with teeth. Brooke's phone chimed. She glanced down and blanched. Bank alert. Attempted charge declined. Contact primary holder. Mike's text popped again on my screen. Mike, say the word. I'll walk you in. Paper first, patrol second. I pushed my chair in. Enjoy dessert, I said. Jason tried one last swing. You walk out, don't come back. I finally looked at him, my son, the man who forgot who built his roof. I just did, I said, and I just did. I left them with the candles and the folder and the sound of a bridge they thought they'd burned, snapping back into place on my side. I closed the dining room door on the candles and the whispers and walked down the hall. I drywalled with my own hands. The house breathed like old timber does, settling, complaining, keeping secrets. My boots found every board Elaine and I argued about replacing and then decided to keep. Tradition won that fight. Tonight, boundaries would. My bedroom still smelled faintly of her hand, cream, lavender, and something citrus I never learned to name. I flipped on the lamp. Warm light, cold resolve. On the dresser sat the small cedar box Elaine called our archive. Inside were the documents nobody ever thinks they'll actually need. The will she and I updated after Jason left for college. The deed stamped and restamped through 2 refinances I paid off early. The hospital discharge notes from the winter we thought we'd lose everything but didn't. I set them out in a clean line. An engineer's habit. Paper is how you remember when people try to rewrite you. I sat on the edge of the bed and turned the brass key she gave me on our 20th anniversary. For the life we built, she'd said, sliding it into my palm like a vow. Tonight it felt heavier. Not metal, meaning. My phone buzzed. Jason, you made a scene. Please stay in your room while we talk to people. We'll sort this out privately. Brooke, Dan, you're being toxic. We are trying to help. If you keep resisting, we'll have to escalate through proper channels. Proper channels. That's gaslighting with legal stationery. I opened a fabric binder I keep for big-ticket documents. Tabs in red for assets, blue for liabilities, yellow for contacts. I slid in tonight's contractor estimate. Brooke paraded like a Christmas cookie. I annotated the margin. Inflated, non-structural, cosmetic. No permits, no scope, no contingencies. Whoever wrote it wanted a quick draw, not a safe house. Another vibration. Email from Brooke. Subject. Quick signatures. Dan, can you sign the attached temporary management doc so we can cover expenses while we update the will? DocuSign expires in 2 hours. I opened it and scanned. It wasn't temporary management. It was broad power of attorney, no end date, no scope limit. Language so sloppy a first-year associate would blush. They weren't just bold, they were careless. I hit reply, typed 3 words and didn't send no with counsel. I saved it to drafts instead. Written evidence is not just what you send, it's what you keep. Across the room, the bookcase sagged under photo albums and manuals nobody reads. I pulled the Navy album with the chipped spine. The first page, Jason at 6, gap-toothed, frosting on his cheeks, a paper crown Elaine made with glitter and glue. He looked at me like I could fix anything. Page 2, Jason at 16, holding a JV football. The caption Elaine wrote in her looping script, he wants the world. I'd sold a truck that ran fine so his out-of-state college didn't have to choose him and his debt. I kept the receipt in a sleeve like a badge. I told myself back then it was love. Maybe it was. Maybe it was also enabling turning every no into, we'll make it work, because the silence after no scared me. I hadn't learned yet that boundaries keep both sides honest. The house creaked, not haunted, just old. It knows things. Another ping. Text Linda. Jason says you're confused. Did you really talk about selling the house to strangers? Are you safe? Safe. That word lands differently when your front door lock clicks and your key doesn't. I thumbed back. I'm safe. Please don't forward anything Jason sends you. I'll explain soon with documents. I filed Linda's text under Family. Communications in my Notes app. Time, date, exact phrasing. People forget what they say. Screenshots don't. On the nightstand, under a dog-eared copy of a bridge manual, sat the thin packet from the attorney. Elaine liked the will we last updated after her diagnosis. It left specific bequests to the library, the church pantry, and the scholarship the union started in her name. Jason would have known that if he ever read anything that didn't come with a QR code. I flipped to the page with the witness signatures and exhaled. Solid. Then. But life changes. So should documents. I marked it with a tab. Review, divided by update. My voicemail chimed. Voicemail unknown, transcription. Hi, Mr. Carter. This is Karen from Maple Ridge Family Medicine. I'm calling to confirm a request for a cognitive assessment referral. I sat up. I hadn't requested that. Voicemail continues. From a Brooke Carter, who identified herself as your caregiver. We need your consent. Please call us back. Caregiver. There's a word people weaponize. I saved the voicemail to evidence and wrote the timestamp on a sticky note. I moved to the desk by the window and powered on the old desktop tower Jason wanted to toss because it looks ancient. It's also mine. And it still boots. I opened a new folder. Carter House Defense. Subfolders blossomed like a blueprint. Legal. Will divided by trust, divided by POA. Bank alerts, divided by freezes. Comms texts divided by emails, divided by VM. Physical photos, divided by locks, divided by estimates. Allies counsel, divided by standby. I dragged in Brooke's email, the contractor PDF, Linda's texts, the voicemail MP3 ripped from my phone. I exported tonight's voice memo from the hallway, Jason bragging that, once the will is fixed, we're golden. I clipped the relevant 30 seconds and named it, Hall Whisper Guardianship Ref, 1224XX, Cut 1, M4A. Precise names make precise arguments. Outside, snow started again. Fat flakes scrolling past the window like static on an old TV. Maple Ridge wraps itself in quiet when the weather turns. That quiet makes people bold. They think nobody's looking. I typed out a list. Change counsel to a specialist in elder financial abuse. Review will plus establish living trust. Keep me as sole trustee. Audit bank accounts. Remove Jason from any legacy sub-access. Set alerts. Consider temporary freezes. Document lock change. Photos. Timestamp. Civil standby. If re-entry contested. Preserve comms. Forward texts. Divided by emails, divided by voicemails to a neutral archive. Do not sign anything without counsel, especially POA or management agreements. I printed the list, signed it like a mini contract with myself, and slid it into the red folder. A plan is a boundary with a spine. My phone vibrated again. Not Jason. Mike. Text Mike. Saw a locksmith van earlier. Took a photo just in case. Plate. JNX 71 kelvins. Want me to sit curbside tomorrow? Quiet like. Text me. Yes, and thank you. He sent a thumbs up. Mike doesn't do many words. He does follow through. I walked back to the cedar box and lifted the small framed photo of Elaine at Lake Erie. Hair whipped across her face, laughing at a wind that wouldn't listen. She'd tell me to keep it clean and keep it kind, and when kindness fails, keep it legal. In the mirror above the dresser, an older man, shoulders still square, jaw tighter than it should be. For a second, guilt tried me on like a coat. You raised a son who could do this. You failed somewhere. Then I heard Elaine again, inside the lamp's warm hum. You taught him. He chose. Those are different verbs. My phone trilled a calendar alert I set after Elaine died. Breathe. Drink water. Write it down. I did all three. Down the hall. Silverware clinked. Laughter warped at the edges. Brooke's social voice, bright and brittle. The house knows when a laugh isn't real. So do I. I slid the brass key into my pocket, even though I knew it wouldn't work on a lock I didn't authorize. Symbolism matters. Symbols remind you when your spine wants to sit down. I shut the lamp, let the room drift to shadows, and opened the door. The hallway felt colder now, not because of the weather, because of clarity. I have been an enabler long enough. The next sound you're going to hear is a lock that doesn't turn and a line that finally does. I headed toward the front of the house, red folder under my arm, phone in my hand, and a boundary I should have drawn years ago burning clean and bright in my chest. The brass key didn't even pretend to turn. I tried once, twice, then stopped before the third out of reflex. The porch light washed the snow into a bright lie. My own front door felt like an apology I wasn't taking anymore. Click, deadbolt, clean, final. I checked the jamb by habit. Fresh scuffs. A faint crescent of metal dust. They hadn't even bothered to wipe it down. Mike's text pinged. Text Mike. Same van rolled by an hour ago. Locksmith sticker. Sending pic plus timestamp. Image attached van plate, JNX71K. 5:42 p.m. Text Mike. Want me to call non-emergency for a civil standby? Text me. Not yet. Document first. I snapped photos. The new lock, the scuffs, the brass key beside it for scale. I opened the doorbell app. Cloud still mine. Access log. Admin code changed 4:58 p.m. User. Brooke. I took a screenshot. Written evidence. A neighbor's wreath squeaked in the wind. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked like he knew the ending. I knocked. Not frantic, just enough to force the issue. Footsteps. Brooke's heels, confident. The door cracked an inch on the chain. Dan? Her voice was sugar over ice. It's late. You changed my lock, I said. Her smile stayed in her throat. We updated the security. For safety. You know, falls, memory lapses. Don't worry. Jason has the extra key. I am the key, I said, and felt the heat leave my voice. Open the door. Behind her, Jason. Brooke, don't. He's agitated. Agitated. There's gaslighting vocabulary for every occasion. I held up the phone. I'm recording. It's my house. That means I'm allowed to record my conversations at my door. Say what you mean. Brooke tipped her head toward the hallway like I was a lost delivery. Dan, please. We're handling guardianship paperwork. It's better if you rest. There it was, naked at last. I leaned closer to the inch of chain. Finish the sentence. Guardianship. To control the house. Guardianship to access the bank accounts. Guardianship to fix the will. Jason huffed. We're preventing a crisis. You don't understand modern finance. We'll streamline the properties. Refinance. Consolidate. Consolidate into whose name? I asked. Silence. The kind that blinks. From the sidewalk, Mike's headlights paused, then vanished around the corner. He was there if I needed him. Tonight, I needed paper more than patrol. I'm calling non-emergency, I said evenly. I'll request a civil standby to document unlawful lockout. Brooke's tone sharpened. No one locked you out. We just reorganized access. I took another photo through the chain. This chain is the definition of out. Jason's voice dropped to a hiss. You always make everything hostile. You're forcing us to do this the hard way. I held the key up to the peephole. The hard way is over. The documented way just started. I stepped back. I'll be on the porch. You can bring me my original key, or you can bring me a lawyer. The chain slid. The door closed. Their voices turned to muted shapes. I walked to the side of the house where the kitchen vent exhales in winter. If you stand just right by the hydrangeas we nearly killed one August, the vent throws a whisper back at you. I put the phone beneath it. Voice memo. On. Through metal and air, words came thin but enough. Brooke. Told Linda the cognitive test is scheduled. Then we can file emergency temporary guardianship if he keeps pulling stunts. Jason. How fast can we get the POA signed if he's, Brooke. We already sent the DocuSign. We just need leverage. Jason. The will we need it updated before he brings in outsiders. Brooke. Then keep everyone on the dad's confused script. He hates conflict. I checked the waveform. Clean. 30 seconds in, and counting. The porch light clicked off, then on. Motion sensor. Time in Maple Ridge moves like that, quiet, then everything at once. Back at the door, I pressed the bell and held my phone where the camera could see the screen. Screen record doorbell app playback. 4:58 p.m. Admin code changed. User. Brookie. 5:03 p.m. Door locked. Auto. 6:11 p.m. Attempted entry key mismatch. User. Admin. The door opened 2 inches again. Chain still on. Jason tried a smile. Dad. You're scaring Brooke. That's projection, I said. Also, the doorbell log just emailed me your code change. Also, your locksmith's plate is on file. Also, I saved a voicemail from a clinic about a cognitive assessment you two requested without my consent. And also, I lifted the phone toward the vent. The house has good acoustics. Brooke's jaw went tight. We were trying to help. Help would have started with a conversation, I said. This started with a lock. She tried to pivot. Fine, we'll meet tomorrow. Just go to bed, Dan. Tomorrow I meet with counsel, I said. Tonight I file a non-emergency report to establish timeline. If you deny entry again, I'll ask the officer to stand by while I re-enter and document my property. If you obstruct, I'll file for injunctive relief. If you touch my accounts, I'll request a freeze and a forensic audit. Jason scoffed. Big words. Small chain, I answered. The door shut. Lock skipped. My phone chimed. Email bank alert. Profile change request received. Add caregiver access Brooke C. Options. Approve divided by deny. I hit deny, then require in-person verification. Two-factor burbled. Approved. I toggled the bank's transaction alerts to $1 and up. Petty? No. Pattern recognition. Enablers miss patterns. Engineers don't. Mike again. Text Mike. Patrol says they can come by in 15. You want the paper trail started? Text me. Yes. Ask for a call first. I'll state facts. No drama. The non-emergency line rang. A steady voice asked for my name, my address, my reason. Unlawful lock change, I said, looking straight into the doorbell lens. Primary owner seeking civil standby to re-enter and document. Parties are family. I'm calm. I have photos, logs, and voicemails. Sir, are you safe? Yes, and I'm recording, for everyone's sake. The dispatcher's tone softened. An officer will meet you at the curb. Keep it conversational. They'll observe, not adjudicate. That's all I need, I said. Observation turns into written evidence. When I hung up, the porch light timed out again. Darkness came back honest. Inside, silverware clinked. Brooke's laugh reached for polished and landed on brittle. Jason moved like a man rehearsing confidence in a mirror. I checked the vent recording. Good levels, clear phrases, names, verbs, the kind of nouns that move judges. I slid the phone into my coat. The brass key stayed in my palm, useless tonight, necessary tomorrow. Not to open this door, but to remind me what ownership sounds like when you stop apologizing for it. Mike's headlights returned, slow and respectful. He parked with the engine idling low. I raised a hand. He nodded once. From the sidewalk, Maple Ridge looked like a postcard. Wreaths, fresh snow, windows warm enough to sing. My house looked the same as always. The people inside had changed. That's not a tragedy. That's a fact. I breathed. I drank the air. I wrote it down in the part of my mind that measures load, calculates span, and knows exactly where a structure fails. The new lock clicked again behind the door. I smiled at the sound. New lock, I said to nobody, voice steady in the cold. New rolls. The cruiser rolled up quiet, lights off, tires whispering over fresh snow. Mike stepped back to give the scene room to breathe. The officer, calm, mid-40 seconds, kept both hands visible and his voice level. Evening. Who's Dan Carter? I am, I said, meeting the doorbell camera's stare. Primary owner, seeking civil standby to document an unlawful lock change by family members. He nodded. We don't adjudicate possession. We'll keep the peace while you collect essentials and take photos. Everyone stays cool? Cooler than the porch, I said. I have photos, doorbell logs, and a clinic voicemail about a cognitive test I didn't request. We knocked. The chain stayed on. Jason tried to posture. Brooke tried to purr. The officer didn't buy either. Ma'am, sir, the officer said. He's the titled owner. He's going to step in, take photos of the lock and his possessions, and step back out. If there's a dispute, it's civil court. Clear? Brooke's smile thinned to paperwork. Clear. I photographed the lock, the chain, the scuffs time-stamped, the officer in frame. I photographed the contractor estimate still on the console table. I photographed the mail addressed to me that Brooke had stacked under a candle-like decoration. Then I stepped out. The officer handed me his card. File a report online if you want the case number. It'll create a paper trail if this escalates. It already did, I said. Thank you. Mike and I watched the cruiser drift away like a snowplow in a quiet storm. You good? He asked. I'm done being the enabler, I said. Tomorrow, counsel. Morning smelled like black coffee and decisions. I was at Reyes and Finch LLP by 8:15, 5 minutes early and 10 years tired. The lobby didn't try to impress, good sign. Lawyers who win don't need chandeliers to do it for them. The receptionist slid over a conflict check form and an engagement letter. I filled the boxes, initialed the paragraphs, signed the last page. She tucked it into a folder marked AITA and gave me a receipt for the retainer. Clean, transparent. Allison Reyes walked in with a legal pad and eyes that stayed on yours. She didn't waste her handshake. I'm Allison, she said. I read your intake. Tell me the short version in your words. Family lockout, rumors of incompetence, a push for guardianship and a sloppy POA. I have written evidence, and a house I'm not leaving. Good, she said, sitting. We don't argue. We document. This saintly. I slid the red folder across the table. Doorbell logs, locksmith plate, clinic voicemail. Brooks email pitching, temporary management. It's a broad POA. Also texts to relatives. Dad's confused. Also a voice memo. The vent gave me a transcript nobody wanted to give me. She read fast, penciling margins with verbs. File. Freeze. Serve. Ohio is one-party consent for recording, she said. You were present in the home. Your voice memo is admissible. The lock change plus the clinic call makes an elder financial abuse pattern. We'll move on 2 tracks. Protect, then evict. I nodded. Protect how? Paper first, she said. We update your will today and execute a revocable living trust you as sole trustee. We deed the house into the trust. That puts it outside a fast grab. We'll also draft a limited, durable POA that names a neutral backup, but scoped, dated, and deadbolted to medical emergencies. Not money. We'll sign a HIPAA release that goes one direction. Doctors can talk to me if you say so. Brooke can't talk to anyone for you. And we'll notify the bank, remove any legacy sub-access, set alerts, and put a temporary freeze on non-essential transfers pending a forensic review. And eviction? I asked. Ohio forcible entry and detainer, she said without looking at notes. You serve a 3-day notice to vacate. After that, we file. The court date comes quick. Their status is licensee at best. You can't self-help, no tossing bags on the lawn, but the court will give you possession if the facts look like this. She tapped the folder. They do. I exhaled. Brooke called a clinic pretending to be my caregiver. Documented, Allison said. We'll send the clinic a revocation letter today. No assessments, no referrals without your direct consent. That voicemail plus your door logs will live in Exhibit A. She flipped to a fresh page. Do they have keys now? They have a new lock and a chain, I said. I have a civil standby card. Good. We'll schedule another standby when we serve the notice to vacate so there's a neutral witness to the exchange. She glanced up. Any shared bank accounts from the old truck loan that never got closed? 1, I said. Dormant. He used it last month for a car payment. We'll close it in person. Today, she said. Bring ID. Tell the banker you suspect undue influence and want a primary holder lock. No third-party changes without you, in person. She paused, pen hovering. Dan, I'm going to ask a blunt question. Do you want them out of your life, or just out of your house? I sat with that. The ceiling vent whispered. Elaine used to hum when I got stuck on a knot. Out of my house, I said. Out of my finances. The rest, the court can't fix. Then we'll fix what the court can, she said. The heart comes later, or not at all. Her phone buzzed. She silenced it without looking. One more thing, you'll get pushback. They'll cry, they'll spin, they'll weaponize guilt. When that happens, repeat after me. I'm not obligated to participate in my own exploitation. I repeated it. It fit like a tool in a palm that remembers work. Allison slid a stack across. Will new. Trust draft. Deed ready for the recorder's office. 3-day notice, customized with dates and service options. Read every line. Ask anything that itches. I read. I asked. She answered like an engineer, no romance, no fog. Just load calculations and failure limits in legalese. Sign here, she said at the end, tapping tabs in yellow. And here, and initial the no self-help clause. I want to be on record that I told you the difference between boundaries and baseball bats. I initialed. We good? We're dangerous, she said, the corner of her mouth thinking about a smile. Mike texted. Text Mike, banker ready. I'll drive. You bring the folder. I'll bring the glare. Allison stood. I'll email you PDF copies and a secure link. Keep originals in a folder that doesn't leave your hand. When you serve the notice, do it with a witness, and if you can on video. Calm voice, neutral words. Let them perform. Paper talks louder. I hesitated at the door. Allison, why this field? She capped her pen, took a breath, and chose truth over small talk. My mother almost lost her house to a nephew with a smile and a notary. A legal aid clinic saved her with a 3-page affidavit and a judge who still believed in facts. She met my eyes. I like facts. Me too, I said. I built a life with them. Time to build a defense. At the bank, the carpet was beige, and the stakes were not. The banker, tie a little crooked, conscience straight, walked us into a glass cubicle. Mike sat behind me like a wall that learned manners. I need to close an old joint account, I said, and put a primary holder lock on all others. No caregiver access. No profile changes without me. In person. The banker checked the screen. There was an attempt last night to add an authorized user named Brooke. I denied it, I said. I want that attempt noted in the profile audit. Done, he said, fingers moving. Alerts on? Every transaction, I said. $1 and up. He blinked. All right. We signed the closeout. The printer whirred a receipt that mattered more than it looked. Back in the truck, Mike handed me a coffee he didn't ask if I wanted. He knows I always do. You look lighter, he said. I look documented, I said. Allison's email chimed. Email Allison Reyes. Subject. Carter executed docs plus next steps. Will and trust executed. Deed recording at 3 p.m. Revocation letter sent to clinic. CC'd you. 3-day notice ready. Will serve at 6 p.m. with civil standby. Do not engage on text. Direct all communication to me. We don't argue. We document. I forwarded the email to myself. Then to a read-only archive I set up this morning. I added the officer's card photo, the bank receipt, and the plate shot Mike took of the locksmith. The Carter House defense folder grew bones. Snow started again, soft as new paper. Tonight? Mike asked. 6, I said. Notice to vacate. He started the engine. You want me on the sidewalk? You're always on the sidewalk, I said. Until you're not. He grunted, which is Mike for yes. As Maple Ridge slid by the window, I rehearsed the line Allison gave me. The one that turns a lifetime of guilt into a full stop. I am not obligated to participate in my own exploitation. At 6, we'd put it on letterhead. By noon, the snow turned to a slow, wet whisper. Paper weather. I set up camp at the kitchen island, like it was a drafting table, laptop open. Red folder at 2 o'clock, coffee at 10. Scanner app, ready to eat lies for lunch. Step 1. Mail. Not the Christmas cards Brooke arranged like decor, the pile addressed to me she hid under eucalyptus stems. I slid it out, squared the corners, and read. Mortgage statement, Maple Ridge Lofts, Unit 2 B Prime. Not my house, their investment condo, 2 payments past due. I took photos, time-stamped, front and back. HOA delinquency notice $1,140 plus late fees. Photo. Auto loan past due Jason's truck. Photo. Final notice utilities for the condo service termination pending. Photo. Glamour costs more than it posts. I opened my laptop, created a sheet. Carter financial weak points. Columns. Creditor. Account. Status. Amount. Due date. Evidence file. Notes. Rows filled like a time-lapse of rot. I linked each row to the photos in Carter House defense divided by physical divided by mail. Step 2. Documents Brooke left out because she confuses aesthetics for privacy. A cream folder with Kitchen Reno 2024 in her looping optimism. I scanned. Contractor proposal. No permit numbers. No licensed subcontractors. 50% upfront draw to an LLC formed last month. I ran the EIN through the state's entity search. The contractor shared a mailing address with an interior studio Brooke tagged on Instagram. I screenshotted the registry results and the IG tag. Written evidence likes company. My phone buzzed. Email bank alert. Card not present attempt. $1,982.74. Home Lux Appliances. Declined. I added a row. Attempted charge. Bank decline. Pattern shopping spree post-lockout. Step 3. Digital trails. I logged into the doorbell cloud. Downloaded the full access log for the past 72 hours. Code changes. Lock events. Motion clips. Exported to PDF. In the vent, recording from last night, I isolated Brooke's line. If we push a physician's letter, the bank will trust our signatures. I generated a transcript, highlighted her exact words, and tucked the file under comms divided by audio divided by transcript. The front door opened. Wet boots. Voices. I had the officer's card in my pocket and my voice steady in my throat. Jason rounded the corner. Saw the papers like a mirror he didn't want. Brooke followed, already performing calm. What are you doing? He demanded. Auditing, I said, not looking up. Written evidence turns noise into facts. Brooke laughed softly, the kind of laugh that tries to float above consequence. Dan, you don't understand modern finance. Everyone carries a balance. Debt is leverage. Leverage, I repeated, scanning the second folder she'd left in plain sight. Then you'll appreciate balance sheets. I slid the HOA notice back into the stack. Unit 2B will appreciate it too. Jason slapped his palm on the island. Those are our documents. You can't. They're in my house, I said. And they're about a property your wife plans to refinance with a deed she doesn't own. Sit down. He didn't sit. Brooke did perch. Angles. Optics. If you're going to spiral, at least talk to a professional, she said. I found a therapist. I have one, I said. He doesn't prescribe guardianships. My phone chimed. Email credit monitoring. Hard inquiry alert. HELOC pre-qualification Carter residence. Requested by Home Equity Partners LLC. Timestamp. 8:41 a.m. I turned the screen so both could read. You tried to pull a HELOC against my house before breakfast. Brooke blinked. No, that's Jason? Stop talking, Jason said to her, then to me. We're reorganizing assets. It's normal. Normal is asking, I said. This is attempted encumbrance without owner consent. It goes in the file. Brooke reached for the stack like it was a stage prop. I rested my fingers on the top page, not forceful, just final. Don't. The house heard me. So did they. Dad, Jason said, trying for earnest. We can make all this go away if you just sign the POA and let us manage. The only POA I sign will be narrow, durable, and limited, I said, and it won't include money. I looked at Brooke. Your DocuSign expires in, I checked, 36 minutes. Let it. Brooke crossed her legs like a drawbridge. You look for problems because you hate being alone. Call it. I look for patterns, I said. Engineers and auditors both do. I kept scanning. BNPL purchases. Textile furnishings. $487. 4 payments. Cosmetic clinic deposits. A wine club auto draft. I opened Jason's investment spreadsheet he once asked me to review for taxes and never bothered to secure. The tabs were performative. Assets. Income. Depreciation. The numbers were not. Negative cash flow masked by optimism and carry-forward losses that would make a real CPA sigh. I recorded a short screen capture scrolling through his sheet, stopping on a cell comment. Ask Dad to cover Q4 if condo still vacant. I saved the video. Digital divided by screen, divided by condo cash flow. Q4. NOT. MP4. Brooke leaned in too close. You can't just... She reached for my phone. Mike's voice traveled in from the doorway like gravel with manners. He can. Step back. I hadn't heard the truck. Mike wiped his boots. No rush. Brooke recoiled. All frosting. No cake. Jason squared to me. You brought back up to intimidate us? I brought a witness, I said, closing the fabric binder and sliding it into the red folder. Intimidation is yelling. Documentation is facts, he smirked. You think the family will side with you when they see you building cases against your own son? They'll see you building cases against your own father, I said, tapping the clinic voicemail transcript. And they'll see dates, amounts, and signatures. Brooke tried a new angle. This is sad, Dan. You're turning this into a court story. It was a court story the moment you changed the lock, I said. My phone buzzed again. Email from Clinic Compliance. We received your revocation letter. No referrals or assessments will be initiated without your direct written consent. We have flagged the account to prevent third-party requests. Good, I said out loud. To the air, to Elaine's memory. One leak sealed. Jason paced. Okay, how much to make this stop? He opened his hands like a deal could fit there. You keep the house. Float us $25K to catch up the condo and we'll stop talking to the family. I stared at him long enough for the silence to say what needed saying. No, I said. Not another dollar. I'm not obligated to fund the consequences of your choices. He flushed. You're choosing this war. I'm choosing boundaries, I said. War was the lock. He lunged, not a strike, a grab for the red folder. Mike's hand was on the folder before his, not aggressive, decisive. Don't, Mike said. One syllable, 10 pounds of history behind it. Brooke stood so fast her chair squealed. We're calling our attorney. Please do, I said, stepping back and lifting my phone. Here's mine on speed dial. I hit speaker. Allison answered on the second ring like she'd been expecting the bell. Allison Reyes. Kitchen table, I said. 2 parties present. We're discussing a proposed $25K for silence. Decline, she said. Dan, read them the communication protocol. I did. From this moment, all non-emergency communication about the house, finances, or legal matters goes through counsel. I won't engage by text, call, or whisper campaign. If you contact my providers or banks, I'll treat it as interference and document it. Brooke folded her arms. You can't control how we talk to family. I can control how I answer, I said. Allison again. Dan, a reminder. 6 o'clock. We serve the 3-day notice with civil standby. Calm voice. Read it. Hand it. Film if possible. Then leave. No debates. Understood, I said. Jason tried for one last pivot nostalgia, the cheap kind. Dad, remember Little League? You said we're a team. We are, I said. A team with rules. You broke them. That's not a team. That's a takeover. The room held its breath. Brooke found her phone like it might rescue her. Jason stared at the island like the wood grain could coach him. I packed the last page, closed the red folder, and slid it under my arm. The brass key in my pocket pressed a small, perfect circle into my palm. It still didn't open the new lock. It didn't have to. 6 o'clock, I said to the clock. The house. The 2 people who turned family into math I could finally solve. We do this on paper. I walked past the oak table, old scars, new scratches, and out into the honest afternoon. The snow had stopped. The sky had that thin winter blue that tells the truth without trying. Behind me, a drawer slammed. Ahead of me, the path was clean. By 3 o'clock, the county recorder's office smelled like toner and old carpet, the scent of things that outlast arguments. Allison slid the deed across the counter like a chess piece, not a threat. The clerk stamped, fed it into a scanner, and handed back a receipt with an instrument number that mattered more than anyone in my family chat. Recorded, the clerk said. Effective now. Now is a wonderful word when you're done asking permission. We stepped into the hallway lined with faded maps of parcels and roads that existed before any of us learned to spell guardianship. Allison checked boxes like a pilot. House into the revocable living trust done, she said. Will executed and witness done. HIPAA release executed done. Narrow, durable POA medical only. Scope limited, revocation clause, done. Bank locks in place. Clinic revocation letter confirmed by compliance. Next. Service. I'm enders of the ring to enringed. The Conley. 6 p.m., I said. She nodded. We serve the 3-day notice to vacate in person, with a civil standby. If they refuse personal service, we go to posting and mailing, tape it to the door at eye level. Photo with timestamp. Then certified mail plus certificate of mailing first thing in the morning. I'll file an affidavit of service either way. We crossed to a small conference nook. Allison spread 3 copies of the notice on the table. 1 to serve, 1 spare, 1 for my file with today's date already inked in. Yellow tab. Read this aloud. You'll read the top paragraph, she said. Slow, calm. You are hereby notified that you are required to vacate. No editorial. No debate. Then you hand it. If they try to hand it back, let it fall. Camera on. Mike stands where he can see without blocking. Officer observes. I traced the space beneath the word possession. It felt like a steel beam finally sitting on its bearings. After service, she continued. We leave. They will text, call, perform. You will not respond. Everything funnels to me. You can hand them my card if they want to fight. My phone buzzed. Email recorder's office. Deed recorded. Instrument #20 flower to 117388. Download copy. Link. I tapped download and slid the PDF into Carter House Defense divided by legal divided by deed. Recorded. PDF. I forwarded a copy to my read-only archive and printed one for the red folder. The paper felt heavier. It wasn't. Meaning again. Allison watched me file with an almost smile. You like systems. I built bridges, I said. The river doesn't care about feelings. She capped her pen. Neither does summary possession. I paused, then asked what had been on my tongue since the first meeting. Why do you sound like you've lived this? She leaned back, eyes not leaving mine. Because I did. My mother, her nephew charmed a notary, slipped a general POA in front of her after a surgery, tried to sell her house for a family investment. Legal aid made a judge listen to 3 pages of facts. We got the sale blocked in 48 hours. Mom still keeps the affidavit in a frame like a diploma. A silence we didn't need to fill. She pushed a card toward me. Process server on standby if we need a second attempt, she said. But tonight we try it clean. Mike's text came through like a drumbeat. Text Mike. Patrol confirm civil standby at 6. Same officer if available. I'll be curbside at 5:50. You want body cam? He says yes if he's the one. Text me. Yes. Paper loves cameras. Allison slid a small, flat envelope across the table. Self-addressed, stamped for certified mail and certificate of mailing pre-filled with their names. If they slam the door, you tape the notice, take a photo with your phone and the officer's card in frame, then drop this at the post office in the morning. Keep the receipts. Judges like receipts. She checked one last line on her pad. Also, your originals will trust. Deed receipt go into a safe deposit box tomorrow. Copies in your read-only archive. If anyone loses anything, we don't. Got it, I said. Her phone buzzed. She silenced it, then didn't. She glanced at the screen, thumb hovering. For a heartbeat, the courtroom armor slipped. You can take that, I said. She shook her head. It's my mother. She calls when it snows. Then she smiled, and it was not a performance. She wants proof I wore a scarf. Did you? 3, she said. Let's go serve. The street at 5:55 looked like a postcard that learned about consequences. Mike already had a thermos and the stance of a man who will let a moment tell on itself. The cruiser slid in slow, lights off. Same officer. Good. Consistency is a kind of evidence. Evening, he said. I'll stand to the side. You read. I watch. Cameras on. Body cam? I asked. He tapped his chest. On. We took our marks like a quiet play. I positioned myself where the doorbell camera would see my face. The notice, the officer's shoulder. Mike angled wider. Phone up, but low. Allison had me rehearse once under my breath. No improvisation. No history. No heat. I pressed the bell. Footsteps. The chain. Again. Jason peered through the crack. What now? I held the paper at chest level, camera facing me. Jason Carter. Brooke Carter. You are hereby notified that you are required to vacate and deliver possession of the premises located at. I read the address. Each number its own beat. Within 3 days after service of this notice. Failure to vacate will result in legal proceedings under Ohio law for forcible entry and detainer, costs, and any other relief the court deems proper. Are you serious? Brooke's voice from the hall, brittle on the rim. I kept reading. This notice is served on the basis that your license to occupy has been revoked, and due to your interference with the owner's property and accounts. Jason tried to shove the chain farther, like that could push the words back into my mouth. You can't evict family. Law doesn't read last names, I said, and extended the paper through the gap. He didn't take it. Fine. I let it fall so the top edge caught the threshold like it had always planned to land there. The officer's body cam watched gravity practice law. Brooke reached out, pinched the paper like it smelled. We're calling our attorney. Allison stepped one pace into the frame, professional and unblinking. Please do. I'm Allison Reyes, counsel for Mr. Carter. Here's my card. She slid it under the chain. All future communication about housing, finances, or legal issues goes through me. Not texts, not cousins, me. Jason stared at the card like it would bite. We're not leaving, I nodded. That's what court is for. Brooke thrust the notice back like it was contagious. It drifted. Mike caught it with 2 fingers, turned it so the camera saw the header, and then without a word, taped it to the door at eye level with a strip of blue painter's tape. Allison handed him from nowhere. Preparation is a magic trick you can do in public. Documented, Mike said. The officer cleared his throat. Folks, you've been served. Keep it civil tonight. You have your 3 days. Brooke's phone chimed. Her face blanched. She turned the screen away, but the light caught her expression, someone realizing the audience just grew. Allison's phone buzzed too. She glanced, then showed me. Email bank audit. Attempted HELOC inquiry blocked. Note added. Primary holder requires in-person. Notarized consent. I breathed. Slow. The air had weight and purpose. Jason jabbed a finger at me. You're destroying your family. I looked at the finger, then at him. I'm preserving one. The part with me in it. Brooke tried one last pivot to pity. Where will we go? Allison spoke before I could. You can use these 3 days to make a plan or to make noise. Only one helps you. Silence spread across the porch like the snow had been waiting for it. The officer gave me a small, professional nod. You're done here, Mr. Carter. Yes, I said. I am. We stepped off the porch. Behind us, the notice looked like a small flag planted on the border of a country I finally recognized as mine. In my pocket, the brass key pressed its circle into my palm, warm now. Not because of the weather, because it remembered whose hand was holding it. In the truck, Allison buckled in and stared out at the house for 1 beat longer than necessary. You know why this works? She asked. Because we didn't argue, I said. We documented. She nodded. And because you stopped apologizing for wanting your life back. The cruiser rolled away. Mike exhaled through his nose like a man taking inventory of a load that finally sits right. Tomorrow, he said. Post office for the certified mail just in case. Then we let the clock run. The clock ticked, honest and indifferent. 3 days isn't long when you've wasted years. It's forever when your entitlement meets a calendar. We drove. The road out of Maple Ridge wasn't different than the road in. I was. They wanted a spectacle. Fine. I brought exhibits. Brooke texted the Carter group chat at 6:45, 30 minutes after being served like nothing happened. Text, Brooke, family thread. Quick coffee plus dessert at our place tonight. Want to clear the air. Dan will apologize for the confusion. Text me to Allison. They're staging Act 2. Text Allison. Attend. Sit where the doorbell camera sees you. Bring copies. No speeches, facts. Maple Ridge glowed like it always does, porch lights, wreaths, the kind of warmth people assume means safety. Inside their living room, the oak table was reset, candles doing their best impression of innocence. Cousins, Linda, a neighbor, too many eyes for comfort, just enough for accountability. Jason stood to greet me like a senator. Dad's here. Good. We can fix this. I set the red folder on the table. We already started. Brooke tried to take the host chair. Everyone before rumors spread, Dan's been under stress. We're exploring guard. I tapped my phone and the doorbell camera feed mirrored to the TV. Big, clean, time-stamped. The porch scene from an hour earlier played in silence first. Me reading the 3-day notice, the officer's shoulder in frame, Mike taping the paper, Allison sliding a card under the chain. Then I hit unmute. TV my voice. You are hereby notified. The room went very still. Candles do that trick where the flame leans toward the truth. Jason lunged for the remote. I picked it up first. Sit, I said. He did, because even bullies know when they've wandered into the wrong sport. Linda leaned forward. Is that legal? Ohio law is boring and effective, I said. This is service. You have 3 days. Brooke laughed thin, brittle. This is harassment. I pulled a stapled packet from the folder and slid it to the center. Exhibit A, I said. Deed recording receipt. Instrument #20 Wafauer to 117388. The house is held by the Carter Revocable Living Trust. I am sole trustee. You can't borrow against it, encumber it, or sell it. Tom, my cousin, adjusted his glasses. Let me see that. He read. Slowly. His eyebrows did the math. This is airtight. Exhibit B, I said, and laid down the bank audit email on the HELOC attempt. Hard inquiry blocked. Any changes now require my in-person, notarized consent. A neighbor who came for pie made a sound people make when they see a clean X-ray after a scare. Gratitude mixed with gossip. Brooke tried to pivot. We were trying to save his assets from scammers. Exhibit C, I said, sliding a printed clinic compliance email. Revocation on any cognitive assessment requests. They logged that someone posing as my caregiver called without my consent. Linda stared at Brooke. You called his doctor? Her voice wasn't angry. It was hurt dressed like a question. Brooke's smile cracked. We were concerned. I kept going. Allison would have been proud. Exhibit D, I said, doorbell access log, showing admin code changed user. Brooke. And Exhibit E, the locksmith plate photo with timestamp. House math, new lock, new chain, no consent. Jason's face reddened. You're cherry picking. Then let's play the long version, I said, and tapped voice memo. The vent recording spilled into the room, tinnier than real life but twice as sharp. Brooke recorded. If we push a physician's letter, the bank will trust our signatures. Jason recorded. How fast can we get the POA signed if he's, no one reached for pie. Linda swiveled to Jason. You told me he was losing it. You told me he asked you to manage the bills. Jason tried a damp-eyed look that used to work when he was 6. Linda, he's confused. I'm not confused, I said. I'm documented. I took one last packet from the folder photos of HOA delinquencies. Mortgage arrears on the condo. Auto late notices, each one time-stamped from my kitchen audit. I put them down like a hand of cards I didn't bluff with. Exhibit F, I said. Your emergency isn't me. It's your debt. Brooke's voice went thin. You went through our mail. In my house, I said, sitting under your eucalyptus centerpiece. Tom looked from Brooke to the papers like a judge weighing emotion. This doesn't look like concern. It looks like control. Jason slammed his glass down. This is ridiculous. You want to humiliate us? You invited an audience, I said. You counted on gaslighting. I brought boundaries. He pointed at me, hands shaking. We vote you out, we can vote you back in. You don't vote on ownership, I said. You respect it or you leave it. A cousin who never likes conflict raised a cautious hand. If the trust holds the house, and the notice was served, what happens if they don't leave? Forcible entry and detainer, I said. A court date, an order for possession, a marshal if necessary. I prefer the door, not the marshal. Brooke's veneer broke. Where are we supposed to go in 3 days? Mike, from the archway, finally spoke. You had years to build a plan B. You used them trying to steal plan A. The room breathed out like it had been holding oxygen for a decade and finally got permission to exhale. Linda stood slow, like dignity has weight. To be clear, she said to Brooke, you told me Dan was unstable, while you were changing his locks and calling his clinic without him. That's not care. That's abuse. Brooke stared back at a woman who used to babysit her husband. The old hierarchies fell quiet. Jason tried a new angle. Nostalgia. Dad, remember you said we're a team? We just want to make the house modern, keep it in the family. Team means rules, I said. Rule 1. Family isn't a debit card. Rule 2. My house isn't your ATM. Rule 3. I am not obligated to participate in my own exploitation. The words didn't shout. They landed. I slid 2 business cards to the middle Allison's. Going forward, I said, all communication about housing, finances, or legal goes through counsel. If you text me, it gets archived. If you call my providers, it gets logged. If you touch my accounts, it gets reported. The neighbor gathered her coat like you do when a show is over and a verdict has been read. I'm going to head out, she murmured, looking at Brooke the way you look at someone who just explained themselves quite well without meaning to. Linda put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, she said. I should have asked you first. You did now, I said. It was enough. Brooke tried to reclaim the room with volume. This is so dramatic. We can fix this if he just, Tom cut in. If he just signs a blank check and pretends the last week didn't happen? No. He looked at me, then at the table that had waited years for someone to tell the truth on it. Dan, if you need a witness in court, you have one. Jason's last card was rage. You're throwing away your family. I'm keeping the part that's mine, I said. And I'm done renting my peace. I stood, folded the red folder, and tucked it under my arm. The notice on the door still faced the street like a border sign. 3 days plain, unromantic, exactly enough. At the threshold, I paused. You have until Monday at 6 p.m., I said. Use it to plan, not to plot. Brooke's phone vibrated. She glanced down and flinched. Alert credit card. Transaction declined. Homelux appliances. Reason. Primary holder lock. She looked up at me like I'd cut the power to a stage she wasn't done performing on. I didn't say a word. The power company sends bills. So does reality. Outside, the air was cold and clean, the kind that scrubs your lungs and your story. Mike fell in step. That went about as well as truth ever goes. It was never about winning a dinner, I said, heading for the truck. It's about winning the record. On the sidewalk, Snow answered with a quiet that sounded a lot like order returning. The oak table behind me would remember tonight the way timber remembers a load the moment it stopped being a surface for pretending and became a place where facts set down their weight and stayed. Day 3 arrived like an alarm that never needed sound. 6 p.m. came and went. Boxes? None. Apology? Neither. Paper doesn't sulk, so we filed. Housing court moves faster than feelings. Allison walked me through the metal detector with a slim brief that weighed like a verdict. Jason and Brooke showed up dressed for sympathy. The judge wore patience like armor. Allison didn't perform. She presented. Deed instrument #20 Wafower to 117388. Trust. Sole trustee. Doorbell logs admin code changed. User. Brooke. Locksmith photo plus timestamp. Clinic compliance email revocation. Unauthorized caregiver request. Vent recording transcript guardianship divided by POA intent. Bank audit. HELOC. Attempt blocked. Service affidavit plus video. 3-day notice. Mail evidence HOA delinquency. Condo arrears. Auto late notices. Brooke tried tears. Jason tried tone. The judge tried the mute button called fax. Quote, possession granted, he said, gavel light but final. Restitution of premises to Mr. Carter. Court costs to respondents. Writ eligible in 7 days. He glanced over the glasses. You may stipulate a move-out plan. In the hallway, Allison turned to them with a form already filled. Stipulated move-out agreement. 21 days to vacate. No extensions without written consent. No harassment divided by no third-party contact with Dan, providers, or banks. Key return, plus walkthrough with civil standby. Failure equals immediate writ, no stay. Jason's jaw worked. Brooke asked for 30 days for the sake of the season. Allison didn't blink. 21, she said. Or we file the writ in 7. Pick. They signed. Paper clicked into place like steel on bearing. Day 10. Civil standby again, same officer, same calm. Mike shifted a toolbox like body language for don't. Brooke tried the victim arc one more time on the porch. Dan, this is humiliating. We're family. Boundaries, I said steady. That's what family uses when love forgets its job. Allison appeared long enough to explain the next inches. You're moving under a stipulated order, she said. This is not optional. We'll do the key exchange and a walkthrough. If something is missing or damaged, we document and file a supplemental claim. Keep it civil. And tree. They're in the Potters. Inside, rooms looked like they were quitting a lie. Brooke's modern touches peeled back to drywall and receipts. Jason's office had a whiteboard with a bubble labeled leverage. No arrow led back to permission. We walked, clipboards up. Primary bedroom, intact. Safe, unopened. My combination still worked. Garage, no parts missing. The snowblower where I left it. Kitchen. A dent in the oak table like the last week tried to autograph it. I photographed it anyway. Brooke spread her hands near the mantel. Can I keep the mirror? It's mine. Bring the receipt, Allison said without tone. No receipt. No removal. Brooke swallowed a sentence. Jason signed the key return form too hard, pen digging troughs in the carbon paper. Allison initialed each line. Chain off. Locks changed back. Keys in my hand. A neighbor wandered over with a casserole like the Midwest really hates empty hands. I don't know what to say. She whispered. I'm sorry. Me too, I said. But sorry is a promise in future tense. Word got around. Linda stopped at the curb, eyes red the honest way. I believed them, she said, voice small. I'm ashamed. You asked me now, I said. That counts. Jason stood on the sidewalk stacking boxes into a trunk that had seen better credit scores. He tried one more pivot to nostalgia. We could fix this, Dad. Start over. We could, I said. When you start with ownership, consent, and costs, not votes, locks, and lies. He stared at the concrete like it might give him a script. It didn't. Brooke reappeared with a framed print. One last thing, she said. This was Elaine's. It makes the place feel like her. Allison looked to me. I nodded. Gift, I said. Because kindness isn't a currency. It's a choice. And Brooke blinked like she hadn't prepared for grace. She muttered something that might have been thanks and walked it to the car. The officer signed the last standby log. You're squared away, Mr. Carter. Almost, I said, pocketing the keys. 2 more signatures. In looking had refit. At the kitchen island, Allison and I executed the move-out acknowledgement condition photos attached. Inventory noted. Future mail address updated. She slid a copy to Jason and Brooke. If you violate the no contact clause, she said, I move for sanctions. If you touch the accounts, I move for contempt. If you breach the date, I pull the writ. There is no fourth thing. Brooke's phone chimed. She flinched again. Alert condo lender. Foreclosure warning. Call immediately. She closed her eyes like maybe darkness could bargain. It couldn't. Outside, Linda hugged me the way people do when they realize hugging costs nothing and means everything. I'll testify if you need me, she said. You just did, I answered. We loaded the last box of their modern life into a car that suddenly looked small. Mike handed Jason a roll of blue tape, the same kind we'd used for the notice. For your boxes, he said. Label what's yours. Start practicing. Jason didn't take it. They drove off without looking back. The notice had long since come down, but its outline remained in the air like a sign only I could see. This is where the line was. Allison gathered her files, eyes soft the way steel is when it remembers ore. Next steps, she said, brisk again. I'll file the satisfaction of judgment once the 21 days run clean. I'll draft a no trespass letter as a courtesy. Tomorrow, we move your originals to a safe deposit box. And your choice list the house, or keep it. I let the question sit. The oak table waited, dignified as ever. The dent was shallow. Wood remembers pressure and forgives it over time if the load doesn't come back. List it, I said. Not because I lost. Because I'm done letting the past serve dinner. Allison nodded, almost proud. I'll loop in a broker I trust. No drama. Escrow clean. You'll choose the buyers. No more votes. She tucked her pen away, then paused. Something unbrief-like flickering in her face. For what it's worth, she said. My mother would have liked you. You remind her of men who build things, and then refuse to be torn down by people who didn't lift a beam. Tell her I wore a scarf, I said. It made her laugh, real and easy. Mike locked the door from the inside and handed me the brass key like a ceremony. It turned. Click. The sound was ordinary and holy. Clock still running, Mike said. But not on you anymore. No one clapped. There was no soundtrack. Just heat kicking on, pipes ticking, a house going back to being a house. Consequences had landed. The ground under my feet felt level enough to build on again. The bill came due. We paid in paper, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't overcharged. The house was quiet, in a way I hadn't heard since Elaine was alive. No performance in the walls. Just heat, pipes, and my breath. I booked Dr. Patel for the first available slot. Noon. Downtown office, 2nd floor. A waiting room with plants that looked like they'd been told the truth and thrived anyway. I filled out the intake the way I fill out permits, honest boxes. No heroics. He opened with soft questions that didn't waste time. Why now? Because the lock clicked, I said. And because I finally heard my own spine. He smiled like that was an answer therapists get once a year. Tell me the story as facts, not feelings. The rezaget. I gave him the engineer's version. Guardianship talk, a forged narrative of incompetence. A new lock, doorbell logs, bank alerts, 3-day notice. Judgment for possession. Then I gave him the part paper doesn't hold. The long slope from love to enabling. I said yes a lot, I told him. Because no made the house cold. Because no came with gaslighting. You're selfish, Dad. It's for your own good. You're confused, and I didn't want to become the villain in my son's story. So I became the enabler in mine. Patel nodded, jotting neat rows that looked like calm. Say it in one sentence. I trained a narcissist to expect my guilt to pay his bills. He circled guilt on the pad. Where did you learn that your comfort is negotiable? My father was a storm, I said. I learned to build bridges. I forgot I needed one for me. He slid a sheet across the table, columns with words. Boundary, vertical bar. Cost, vertical bar. Script. Pick 3 boundaries, he said. Name the cost of keeping them. Write the script you'll use when someone tries to rent your peace. I wrote like a man who's learned expensive handwriting. No money to subsidize other people's consequences. Cost, being called selfish, losing the illusion of team. Script, I don't fund outcomes I didn't choose. No decisions about my body, home, or accounts without me. Cost, accusations of paranoia or stubbornness. Script, if it needs my signature, it needs my consent, not your urgency. No contact outside counsel on legal divided by financial matters. Cost, isolation from people who like access more than relationship. Script, talk to my lawyer. I'm not available for gaslighting. Quote, Patel added a 4th line himself and slid it back. Self-boundary, no self-attack after enforcing the first 3. I laughed, which surprised both of us. You caught the last ghost. He leaned back. Let's talk shame versus remorse. Shame says, I am bad. Remorse says, I did something I won't repeat. Which one are you carrying? Shame, I said. It felt like a bolt finally labeled. Drop it at the door. Keep responsibility and remorse. You can repair behavior. You cannot repair someone else's entitlement. He asked what I want my life to feel like in a year. Not look like, feel like. Quiet, I said. And chosen. And documented in ways that don't require court. He grinned. That's a Dan answer. We reviewed the week like a post-mortem. After a bridge inspection, successes, failures, lessons. Success. I didn't argue, I documented. Failure. I waited years to draw the line. Lesson. Boundaries late are still boundaries. Say the sentence out loud, he said. I looked at the window. At a winter sun that does more honest work than summer. Was I enabling their toxic behavior all this time by being too nice? Yes. It's time to stop feeling guilty and start fighting back. And fighting back looks like paper, not yelling. He nodded, quiet approval. What will you do when grief shows up dressed like doubt? I'll pour it a glass of water and read it the stipulated order, I said. He actually laughed at that. We built a tiny toolkit that would fit in a back pocket. Mantra. I am not obligated to participate in my own exploitation. Delay line. I'll get back to you after I've reviewed with counsel. Exit line. This isn't a conversation. This is a decision. Check-in. 1 weekly session for a month. Then taper. Patel sent me off with homework. Sleep, walk, eat something green, write a letter I won't send. Back home, the oak table waited like a witness who doesn't need the last word. I opened a fresh page in my notebook. Elaine Ledger, the account where I deposit the things that keep me human. Dear Jason, I wrote, and felt the familiar ache tap my ribs once before it left. I love the boy you were. I will not bankroll the man you're practicing. I forgive you because I want the room back in my chest. Forgiveness cancels the ledger between us. It doesn't reopen my accounts. I placed the letter in a plain envelope and wrote unsent where a stamp would go. The broker Allison recommended. Came by at 4, no cologne, clean shoes, questions like a person who listens. We walked the rooms. He said escrow could be clean in 30 days. The market liked houses with a story and plumbing that worked. I smiled at the idea of a young family putting magnets on a fridge that had learned silence again. When he left, I pulled the brass key from my pocket and weighed it in my palm. Keys open and they close. This one had done both in a week. My phone buzzed. Allison. Text Allison. Buyer interest already. A teacher plus nurse. Solid file. Also, Small Win Clinic sent a formal apology for the caregiver note. Sending for your records. Text me. Add it to the archive. Then rest. Tell your mom I wore a scarf. She sent a laughing emoji. Then a period. Then, proud of you. I set the phone down and stood in the doorway, the one Brooke tried to chain. The wood didn't remember her hands. It remembered mine. The guilt still knocked, but quieter now, like weather against a window you can name. I let it pass. In the mirror, a man looked back who looked like me but lighter. Not because he won a court date, but because he stopped mistaking martyrdom for love. Here is the truth I wish I'd learned sooner. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks you own. And owning the lock isn't cruelty. It's stewardship. Tomorrow, I'll move the originals into a safe deposit box, meet the buyers, and choose what pieces of this life come with me. Tonight, I'll drink water, breathe, and write down 3 things that are mine. My name on a deed, my hand on a key, and a spine that finally works like a bridge carrying weight, not people who refuse to walk. I turned off the light. The house exhaled. For the first time in years, I didn't rehearse an apology in the dark. I rehearsed part 10, letting go without letting myself go. The offer arrived on a Tuesday morning like a sunrise that respected the blinds. Teacher plus nurse, the couple Allison mentioned, pre-approved. Letter from their lender clean as a fresh sheet of paper. They loved the porch. They loved the oak table. They loved the idea of a house with a story and plumbing that worked. I accepted at noon. We opened escrow by 2. No drama, no speeches, just initials, signatures, and a timeline measured in business days, not outbursts. The inspection found what I already knew. A tired water heater with more miles than menace. A GFCI outlet that needed to remember its job. A roof that would last long enough for a child to draw a rainbow on the fridge and forget about it. We negotiated credits like adults. The appraisal came back on target. The lender yawned in a good way. I boxed my life with a Sharpie and a system. Keep, give, archive. The brass key sat on the windowsill like a punctuation mark that had done its sentence. Mike carried the heavy stuff with the grace of a man who knows that friendship is a verb. The buyers brought cookies to their final walkthrough and a question I didn't expect. Would you leave the table? I looked at the oak, at the shallow dent from a week that tried to sign its name on my life. I put my palm there and felt timber do its oldest trick, remember and release. It stays, I said. It holds more truth than most furniture. Closing day smelled like toner and relief. The escrow officer flipped pages, explained wires, pushed a pen that had seen more endings than beginnings. I signed, received the settlement statement, and watched the transfer hit my account with all the emotion of a light switching on. That's the magic of clean escrow. It turns chaos into arithmetic. I drove to the credit union and opened a new account under a name that started as a joke and grew into a plan. The Elaine Carter Scholarship Fund, seeded from the proceeds. Administered by the school foundation, earmarked for kids who want to build things that last. The clerk printed the receipt. Paper, again. Doing what speeches can't. I moved into a 3rd-floor walk-up near a small park, where winter crows argue like old men. The apartment was quiet on purpose. My furniture looked like it had room to breathe. I hung one photo Elaine at Lake Erie, wind turning her hair into punctuation marks. That first night, I cooked something simple and unreasonable. Grilled cheese, tomato soup, a salad that made a doctor proud. I set my plate on a thrift store table that didn't know my history and didn't need to. The brass key lived on a hook by the door, now still mine, still metaphor, no longer burden. Allison called the next morning with the neatness of a period. Satisfaction of judgment filed, she said. The case is papered shut. Thank you, I said. For the spine when mine was warming up. She was quiet for a breath, then offered the second twist I didn't see coming. I didn't tell you the other reason I took your case, she said. The scholarship you're setting up? My mother put herself through paralegal school on a scholarship like that, after the nephew tried to take her house. Different name, same idea. Someone funded her escape route. I promised myself I'd pay that forward, until my pen runs dry. I pictured a younger Allison at a graduation no one could steal. A mother holding an affidavit like a diploma. I pictured Elaine's name being said out loud in rooms we would never enter. Then let's both keep our promises, I said. We hung up. I took a walk. The park was honest. Trees, a dog that didn't care who owned what yesterday, a sky that refused to apologize for being cold. Back home, I wrote 2 letters. One I mailed to the teacher and the nurse. Welcome home. You're getting a house that learned to tell the truth. Take care of it. It'll return the favor. The second went in the Elaine ledger unsent, but not unwritten. Forgiveness granted. Access revoked. Those two can live in the same sentence if you stop confusing martyrdom with love. I placed the original's will, trust, deed receipt in a safe deposit box, then forwarded PDFs to my read-only archive one last time. Systems don't replace courage. They let courage clock in and get to work. That night, I slept like someone who finally evicted a noise only he could hear. Analysis and lessons, for anyone who needs this story to be more than a story. Legal US, Ohio flavored, but broadly useful. Living trust plus updated will. Move the house into a revocable living trust with you as sole trustee. Update your will to reflect actual values, not nostalgia. POA, but narrow. If you sign a power of attorney, keep it limited and durable. Scope to medical, not money unless a neutral fiduciary is involved. Put an expiration on it. Escrow is a boundary. Selling or refinancing. Use escrow. No money moves without signatures and conditions met. Civil standby and paper trails. When family conflict involves property, request a civil standby. Photograph locks, logs, mail. Save voicemails. Paper is how memory testifies. Recording and consent. Know your state's rules. Ohio is one-party consent. I could record conversations I'm part of. Check your state before pressing rec. Eviction is a process, not a shout. Serve a 3-day notice properly, then file forcible entry and detainer. Don't self-help. Courts respect people who respect procedure. Banks and providers add primary holder locks, require in-person, notarized consent for profile changes, and revoke unauthorized caregiver access with a letter. Turn on alerts for $1 plus. Psychology, what keeps you sane? Boundaries aren't betrayals. They are doors with locks you own. Gaslighting bingo. It's for your own good. You're confused. Don't make this messy. Translate it. Give me control. Enabling taxes the future. Every yes you can't afford becomes a bill with interest. Guilt is a tool, don't lend it out. You're not obligated to participate in your own exploitation. Remorse beats shame. Fix behavior. Don't marinate in self-attack. Practical, do this on Monday. Inventory accounts. Remove zombie access. Set alerts. Freeze what's fuzzy. Centralize documents. Will, trust, deed, POA, HIPAA, bank letters, logs. Back up to a read-only archive. Script 3 boundary lines and practice them out loud. Build a witness bench, lawyer, friend, therapist. Don't fight solo. If you must confront, do it on paper and on camera. Let the record do the arguing. In a year, I want my life to feel like this week's last page. Quiet. Chosen. Documented. Not because I like paperwork. Because I like peace. And peace has paperwork. I turned off the lamp, hung the brass key back on its hook, and let the room go dark on purpose. Somewhere across town, a teacher and a nurse were picking cabinet knobs and arguing about paint colors in a house that had learned honesty. Somewhere on a desk at a school, a file with Elaine's name would become a scholarship for a kid who wants to build something that won't fall when someone shakes it. I'm not a hero. I'm a man who stopped renting his peace. Exit clean. Enter chosen. If this story taught me anything, it's this. Your peace is worth paperwork, and no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone a TED Talk for protecting your mind, your money, or your home. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're maintenance. Saying no doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. And clarity is the opposite of gaslighting. Here's what I'm carrying forward. You are not obligated to participate in your own exploitation. Guilt is a tactic, not a truth. If someone needs you confused to get what they want, that's toxic by design. Document is greater than debate. Paper doesn't panic, and a timeline beats a tantrum. Remorse, not shame. Fix the pattern, not your personality. Love without martyrdom. You can forgive and keep the lock. Both can be true. Protecting your mental health isn't overreacting. It's preventive care. Less adrenaline, more evidence. Fewer apologies, more decisions. I didn't win by being louder. I won by being legible to myself, to a judge, and to anyone trying to rewrite my life in their font. Now, I want to hear from you, Reddit court. Sound off. AITA for drawing a hard line with my own family and letting the record speak. What would you have done in my situation? Argue it out at the table, or lawyer up and let the paper talk? Have you ever dealt with an entitled relative or a narcissist who mistook kindness for access? Drop your survival scripts and best boundary one-liners below so someone scrolling at 2 a.m. can borrow a line that saves their sanity. Be kind. Be specific. And remember, peace kept is greater than peace faked.